Salesforce Flow or Apex. Which tool should I use to complete my business requirement? This question is asked by every developer. And in this video, I will explain when to use Flow and when to use Apex. What is Flow? Flow is a declarative automation tool that helps us in completing our business requirement with no code approach, or we can say very low code approach. As we are not writing code, it will help us in reducing code lines in our org. So of course, in that case, our global search or the reporting performance is higher. Flow is mainly developed for admin, product owner, or the business users. Of course, developer can use it very easily, but mainly for these kind of user, it is developed. Let's see when to use Flow. Flow should be used when we have a very simple business requirement, like we want to update a field, we want to create a task, or we want to create a record, right? It also helps us in creating a custom approval logic, or we can implement the post approval action as well through the Flow. Flow also used in schedule automation that not required a bulk logic, like where too much loop is not required, then we can implement the Flow. Flow also help in faster delivery, as we are not using code, we are not developing through code, no test code coverage is required, and deployment is easy for the Flow. Flow also support pre-built templates and subflows, so it will help us in reducing development life cycle. Flow support versioning, so if you want to change any flow, we can simply change it and we can activate it. It will, as soon as we activate the latest version, the previous version deactivates automatically. Flow also support integration, so we can implement some integration as well with the Flow. So these are the processes where we can implement the Flow. Let's see when to use Apex. Apex can be used where complex business logic is required, like we want to implement the deep nested conditions, we want to implement the recursion, right? So in that situation, we should go with the Apex. It can also be used the bulk data processing, like when we want to implement business logic for more than 10,000 records. So in that kind of scenario, we can use bulk data processing and we can implement the Apex there. Apex provides implementation of different kind of integration pattern, so we can implement or we can integrate any external system in Apex very easily. Custom logic, we can implement custom error handling and the logging framework through Apex. In Flow, we have a fault concept, but that is not that robust as we can implement Apex. In Apex, we can easily handle asynchronous process like future, batch, schedule, or QL classes. These all are used to handle a huge record for business processing, like if you want to migrate data from one system to another system on daily basis, then we can use these kind of asynchronous process that cannot be handled properly in the Flow. Then we have reusability across multiple components. Apex support component creation, so that component or helper class can be implemented multiple classes. Although yes, Flow also supports subflow, but that kind of scalability cannot be implemented in Flow as we can get in Apex. Apex gives us full control over logic, performance, and testing, but of course it comes with a higher technical depth, so we should implement it properly. So what is the architectural guideline to use Flow or Apex? Use Flow first approach, like we should always evaluate if Flow meets 100% of the requirement or not, right? If it's not supporting our requirement, then of course we can go with the Apex. Governance. We should avoid mixing automations like Apex trigger and the record trigger flow on same object and event without any orchestration. Performance, if DML queries are required in loops, or we have a large data set to be processed, then we should always use Apex. Monitoring, we can use platform event or custom logging for tracking Apex execution, and we can implement that in Apex, right? If we want to use that feature in a flow, then we have to use invocable method classes, right? So that is the one way we can use monitoring flow as well. So as a architect, suggestion will be use flow where possible. It aligns with the Salesforce low code vision and reduce complexity as well. Use Apex when business logic requires scale, custom control, or async behavior that flow can't support reliably. The goal is to balance performance, maintainability, and the delivery speed, not just write code for the everything, right? So this is the architectural perspective to use Flow or Apex. Now let's see what is the comparison of Flow and Apex with the some criteria. So development type for Flow is a declarative, no code or low code, but in Apex it is a programmatically, like we have to write the code. Built for Flow is built for admin and developers, but Apex is purely for the developers only. Complex logic handling, in Flow we have a limited set of we have a limited complex logic handling, where it's very limited in a Flow, but in Apex we can implement very easily. We have support complex branching, recursion, everything in a Apex. Bulk data handling, it is limited in the Flow. We can easily get a govern limit failure errors. But in Apex, it is very strong. We can handle 50,000 plus record using bulkified code. Async processing, it is very limited. We have a scheduled flow, and which is not true async. But in Apex, we have full support for future, QL, batch, schedule, everything as a sync process. Integration support, very limited support, but in Apex we have full HTTP callout, named credential, or even the SOAP callout, everything is there in the Apex. Error handling, we have very basic like a fault path, but no custom logging. But in Apex we have advanced, we can use try catch, custom exception, any logging framework we can implement. Performance, good flow is good for the simple use cases, but Apex is better for complex high volume logic. Testing and deployment, no unit test code required, so we can easily deploy it. But Apex, we require a test class coverage, like for 75% coverage should be there, and it is a CI/CD friendly. Reusability, flow, we can create a subflow and we can implement invocable actions. Okay, right? So it's you can say it's a medium support for the reusability. But in Apex, with high reusable classes we can create, we can implement interface, we can implement trigger, which is very reusable, right? Change management, easy for admins, less version control is required. And in Apex, we have to support Git, we have a version control, we have SFDX, so all those things we can implement for Apex, right? Governance control, it's very limited in a flow, but in Apex is a full control. We can create a structure for each kind of code logic. Maintainability, of course, flow is very easy to maintain, and in Apex it needs dev time for the maintenance and enhancement. Sometimes extra team is required for maintaining the code. Learning curve, flow is very easy to learn. It is a drag and drop functionality, but Apex, of course, it is we need a programming language knowledge. As for strategy alignment, is aligned with the low code approach, and Apex is aligned with the complex enterprise needs, right? So this is the comparison table for the flow. So I think you will be able to understand when we should use flow and when should we use Apex. Thank you for listening this difference of flow and Apex. And if you want to discuss any Salesforce topic, or you want to discuss a Salesforce project, or if you want to also hire Salesforce developer and architect, you can contact on given number, and if or you can send on our email. Thank you very much.